Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is the new 2024 iPad Pro 13 with the ludicrously fast M4 chip, with the thinner and lighter design, with the OLED screen, with the doubled base storage, with the centered landscape camera, and with the new Apple Pencil Pro and Magic Keyboard. And it's all very, very nice, like as a thing to look at and use. Kind of blows my mind how this can be so fast. Literally, this gives the M3 Pro in a MacBook Pro a run for its money, while also being fanless, while also giving us a 10-hour battery, the same as before. Fantastic speakers, great cameras, especially now they've put it in this central landscape orientation, and somehow they've managed to squeeze in the new Pencil Pro charging stuff up there as well, all in this. Literally 5.1 millimeters thick, making it the thinnest device Apple's ever made. It is such a cool bit of tech. So from a hardware perspective, it's nuts, but it's also very expensive. It's actually $200 more than the previous Pro, although they have doubled the base storage from 128 to 256, so that kind of offsets that a little bit. But the problem is, and you know exactly what I'm going to say, this doesn't do anything that my old iPad didn't. Or at least not yet. The problem with reviewing this device right now is we have Apple's WWDC event just around the corner, where they'll announce all the new software like iOS, macOS, and iPadOS, and it's pretty much guaranteed there's going to be some big AI news, utilizing the powerful neural engines that are built into these M-series chips. So I will absolutely revisit this review after Dub, as they call it, although to be fair, while they will announce the software, it probably won't be released to the public until like October, November time, but I'm definitely going to come back and see if there's more reason to get an M4 iPad Pro, because until then, I'm not sure. The thing is, I was sat down writing this review with the iPad in front of me and just on the home screen, thinking, okay, what shall I open? How shall I test this and, get the most out of it? I fired up the new Logic Pro 2 app and quickly realized I have no idea how to use this, although fair play if you are mixing on your iPad. I've got Final Cut Pro, and there's an updated Final Cut Pro 2 coming soon, and it all still runs very smoothly, and now it can handle more 4K ProRes streams than my old one. Oh, and actually, speaking of Final Cut, you can now edit projects from an external SSD plugged into the USB-C port, which actually is very helpful, but again, not exclusive to this new Pro. It's also been fun squeezing and doing barrel rolls with my new Apple Pencil Pro, and genuinely actually, I did speak to a few illustrators and artists at Apple's launch event for the new iPads, and they were very excited about this new pencil. I think there isn't really another system, another sort of setup where you can get a pencil that has these features, that level of responsiveness on an OLED screen like this, with the ecosystem and the apps that you can get on the iPads. So for proper artists and illustrators, I know they absolutely love this setup. And the best bit is this new Pencil Pro supports Find My. So now every time you lose it down the side of the sofa, you can track where it is. So for me, I use my iPad as a secondary device. Instead of my heavier MacBook Pro to take notes at briefings and in meetings, I watch a lot of TV shows and movies on it, especially when I travel. I read sometimes, although I do find this 13-inch a bit too big for that. And occasionally I'll jot down notes and do some brainstorming in various apps like Freeform. And actually, combined with the excellent keyboard and pencil, it is one of the most versatile gadgets I own. But again, nothing new with the new iPads. It's just all hamstrung by iPadOS. This has been the issue for like the last 5-6 years, ever since really they introduced the keyboard for it, turning it more into a laptop, and actually this new Magic Keyboard, which is very, very nice, although it's £350 for this 13-inch version. This is like the most laptop you can get without being a proper laptop, and it's just a shame we're still on this bloody iPadOS that, outside of a few Apple Pro apps and a couple of very niche productivity tools, I just don't know what to do with all this power. One comment on my first impressions video said it was like putting a V12 engine in a Ford Fiesta. I quite like that. But when it costs £1,000, actually no, that's for the 11-inch, this is £1,300 for the 13-inch, it's an awful lot of money. And in fact, let's go down this rabbit hole for a second. Would you rather a new iPad Pro, 13-inch, silver, like I have here. Let's go with 1 terabyte of storage, more than most of us would probably need, although it does also double the RAM, give us an extra processor core, and then you also have the option for the nano texture screen if you want. Add the Pencil Pro, add the Magic Keyboard, which is, again, £349, all in £2,377. Now, would you rather have that, or, for 70 quid less, a MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Pro chip and also a terabyte of storage? That just seems crazy to me, and I would take the MacBook Pro every day of the week. But just for a minute, let's park all that pricing and value for money, and also the commercial advert thing that they made for this, which is not everyone's favorite. In fact, if they literally just reversed it and had like everything coming out of the iPad, that'd have been so much better. But anyway, let's park all that to one side. What's this actually been like to use? Well, I can tell you straight away, if you buy one of these, or even just pop into an Apple store and pick one up, I promise you, you're gonna have a smile on your face. As I say, the 11-inch is 5.3 millimeters thick, the 13, 5.1. And for what is essentially just a big slab of glass, it is nothing short of incredible how capable this is. Although for me, as I take this traveling quite a lot, it's actually more about the weight than the thickness that I'm interested in. So let me bring in my trusty kitchen scales. We have the previous 2022 iPad Pro 13, 687 grams, then the new 2024 iPad Pro 13, 590 grams. So we've shaved 97 grams off the weight. And actually, this new Pro is 25 grams lighter than the so-called iPad Air. But what about the Magic Keyboards? Well, old one, 699 grams, new one, 669. So combined, at least according to my not very fancy scales, where I think it might be a gram or two off, the new iPad Pro with the new Magic Keyboard is 1.26 kilograms versus 1.385 on the old setup. And for context, a MacBook Pro 14 is just shy of 1.6 kilograms, so a good deal heavier. So the new Pro has lost a little bit of weight, but it has also lost the ultra-wide camera, although on the plus side, they have added a adaptive true tone flash, so photos taken with the flash have a bit more natural white balance. They've also got rid of Wave support for 5G, and also the physical SIM card tray. If you were going to buy the cellular version, now it is eSIM only. They have also added Wi-Fi 6E, up from Wi-Fi 6 last time, and there is a new space black color, or like I have here, the silver and silver combination. Oh, and they have also added an OLED screen and the first ever M4 chip. We should probably talk about those. So this is the first OLED screen on an iPad. Tandem OLED, as Apple call it, as apparently they had to use two OLED panels on top of each other to get the brightness they wanted. So on the previous Pro, we had mini LED, although only on the 13-inch, which was frustrating. Its smaller 11-inch brother was stuck with a regular IPS LED screen. So right off the bat, the good news is that both new Pros get the exact same OLED screen. But also, while mini LED is very good, and to be quite honest, day to day, you'd be hard pressed to notice the difference, in some high contrast scenarios, like where you have a really bright area next to a really dark one, you'll see this blooming, this sort of purple haloing. But now, since the pixels on OLED panels can turn themselves on and off individually, that is basically gone. You get a much cleaner image, properly inky blacks rather than washed out dark grey blues. I've also noticed the colors are just a little bit warmer and more vibrant. The older mini LED has a slightly cooler, almost greenish tone to it sometimes. And surprisingly, while Apple specs say the brightness should be the same between the mini LED and the OLED, with my lux meter here, I recorded the OLED to be around 150 to 200 lux brighter for both regular SDR content and HDR video. And that's full screen brightness. Obviously though, it is tricky to show this off on camera, especially as I'm not shooting this in HDR, so take my word for it that in person, this new OLED screen does look brighter and punchier. It's also better at handling motion, as there's a lower response time, and we also get a much higher pulse width modulation, or PWM. Although I couldn't tell you the precise hertz, but slowing the shutter speed on my camera right down, you can see the difference. And while it appears the screen's refreshing slower on the right with the new one, it's actually much faster. And this does help reduce eye strain, particularly at lower brightnesses, so that's a nice bonus. And especially versus the iPad Air, this is the new 2024 Air, which has the exact same screen as before, so we're talking 60 Hz, IPS LED, and the limited brightness just makes HDR content fall flat, really. Although the bigger issue is that refresh rate. For a £700 tablet in 2024, 60 Hz is a bit unforgivable, just like the regular iPhone 15 series. Again, hard to show in a 60 FPS video, but the pros with that 120Hz ProMotion just makes everything feel smoother and faster. Another first is the introduction of a nano texture glass option. We've seen this micro-etched glass on their studio monitors before, and it does cost $100 extra, and you can only spec it on the 1 or 2 terabyte models, which means it will cost you at least £1,900 to get it. But from my brief hands-on time with it, while it does significantly reduce reflections, it does also throw off the contrast and kind of wash out the screen, particularly if you're looking at it off angle. If you regularly use your iPad outside or in really bright lighting, then yes, it could be a good option, but it's not going to be for everyone, especially with that high price of entry. But of course, the headline upgrade is this, the M4 chip. Completely skipping the M3, which we have in the latest MacBook Pros and Airs, this is the very first time we've seen an M4 chip in any device from Apple, and one of the reasons for that is it has a display engine specifically for this OLED display, the tandem OLED with that 1600 nit 120Hz. So maybe that means next-gen MacBooks with M4 chips could also have OLED screens? Fingers crossed. But just how fast is this? Well, first off, this is the top spec M4, and by that I mean the 1 and 2 terabyte storage models come with a 10-core CPU and 16 gigs of memory, whereas the cheaper 256 and 512 options get a 9-core CPU and 8 gigs. Everything else is the same though, and I doubt it would make a significant difference. Now versus the previous gen iPad Pro with the M2, which has now made its way to the new Airs, in Geekbench 6, single-core performance is up 42%, multi-core 45%. And in the Geekbench graphics test, we're looking at a 16% uptick. Also, just look at the difference in the colors within Geekbench. The older mini LED on the left looks just kind of green. Anyway, back to performance, and in the Antutu test, the M4 is 24% faster. But if you're wondering how that competes with a top-spec M3 Max MacBook Pro 16, and I know you were, well, here's one I made earlier. And incredibly, the M4 iPad Pro, the fanless iPad Pro I might add, is 20% faster in single-core, although the laptop is a good deal faster in multi-core and graphics. Although actually it's not far off the results from an M3 Pro in a MacBook Pro. And of course, just because the iPad is ludicrously fast, it is still running iPad OS, and it can't run desktop versions of apps. So no Blender, no Premiere Pro for me, or let's say proper gaming on Steam. Don't get me wrong, it is always satisfying to see these arbitrary benchmark numbers go up with each generation, but 98% of the time, you're not really gonna see any performance difference here. And actually, versus the M2, just firing up Death Stranding, it was maybe half a second quicker to load the game, and just moving around, rotating the camera, performance felt exactly the same. To be fair though, this is an iPad Pro. It's in the name. This is a professional's device, or really it should be with that price tag. And most of us use iPads for watching YouTube and Netflix, and this is like the most powerful, overkill content consumption device you can possibly buy. But for those of you who do use this in a more advanced way, then first of all, let me know how you use it, what apps you use in the comments below. And if you can take advantage of all that raw performance from the M4 chip, then yeah, this might actually be worth buying, especially if you're, I don't know, working for a company or a business where they can pay for this for you. You've also got by far the nicest tablet keyboard ever with this new Magic Keyboard, both the keyboard itself with its new function row here at the top and the bigger glass trackpad with haptic feedback, genuinely just as good as my MacBook Pro. It's so nice to use, and as soon as I popped the iPad onto it, I just immediately used that function row like it had always been there, changing the brightness and the volume without interrupting what's on screen. Although you can't use the old Magic Keyboard or even the old Apple Pencils with these new OLED iPad Pros. So if you are going to upgrade your setup, you basically have to buy everything again, which is an awful lot of money. You could save a chunk by going with the new iPad Air instead, which the new Apple Pencil Pro also works with, but not the new Magic Keyboards. And if this is all a bit confusing, I am working on a full iPad buying guide coming soon. I'm going to wait until June when Apple announces all their stuff at WWDC. But stay tuned, make sure you've hit that subscribe button because I will walk you through everything you need to know for the entire iPad lineup. Okay, let's wrap up. And Apple said this is the biggest leap for iPads since the original iPad. And I just don't think that's true at all. But it is a very nice upgrade nonetheless. Thinner, lighter, faster, brighter, OLED, better camera placement, much nicer keyboard, upgraded pencil, and I am very pleased it comes with 256 gigs of storage as standard. But it is more expensive, and right now it doesn't really do anything that my old one didn't. Maybe if you're still rocking a 2018 or 2020 Pro, it could be worth upgrading now. For me, and also absolutely spoiling my upcoming buying guide, I think the base 10th gen iPad is absolutely the one everyone should buy. £349, same in dollars, same price as that bloody keyboard. But as I say, if you are buying one of these, if you can take advantage of the M4, or you reckon you might be able to, let me know what you're using it for in the comments below. I'd be really, really interested. So watch this space. Let's see what Apple does with the software, and we'll revisit this. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, a cheeky like and subscribe would be fantastic, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.